Hello, 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 guys. Welcome back. We are officially back with the InuYasha Rewatch series, but I have something a little different today that we're going to talk about and we're going to discuss. And we are going to talk about the dynamic between Sessohmaru and InuYasha's relationship. However, as I was watching the show today, I was picking up a few things. And again, this is all just speculation, but I do want to talk about something and kind of touch on something that I don't really hear people talking about. So today we're going to dive into Inuyasha and Shishomaru's relationship. But what if Shishomaru is just a big brother with hurt feelings and not the kind of hurt feelings that you think about? So let's just jump right on into it. So, of course, as you guys already know, Inuyasha is the younger brother of Shishomaru. And of course, we all know the whole bit of Inuyasha and Shishomaru going back and forth about their father's sword, even though we know that the sword was meant for Inuyasha. And we are going to touch on that and talk about that a little bit later. But we know that Shishomaru wants the sword. And of course, we often think that, maybe it's just because his dad was meant to leave him this sword. He feels like he's owed that sword, a birthright thing, if you will. He never thinks that his Tenseiga is up to par with the Tetsaiga, especially as the show goes on and it has like all these different features and upgrades. Why is this sword getting all these upgrades, y'all? Like so many. Of course, we haven't gotten that far yet. We're almost into season 4, but I've seen it before. So yeah, this sword gets some crazy upgrades. However, there was something that I kind of like noticed and really picked up on and paid attention to as I was going about watching it today. And of course, like you guys can talk to me in the comments, we can have a discussion, but like always, whatever I think about, I'm going to come and talk to you guys about it. So at the end of season 2, we find out that the sword, the Tetsaiga, was basically given to Inuyasha to not only help him protect basically other humans, but also to protect himself, because we find out that the Tetsaiga basically goes hand in hand with his demon blood in order to help suppress it, if you will. Best way that we can word that. And Shishomaru is kind of like taken aback, like a little bit. Like he really doesn't show it necessarily in his face because he's not the most expressive, but we do see that he's kind of taken aback. He's like, whoa, because he has seen when Inuyasha's demon blood takes over and what he can do, and he also felt that presence, and in that moment he was scared of his little brother, and he was just like, whoa, bro. So we find that out. And, fast forward to season 3, now they have fought the Panther Demon Tribe, which that's going to be a whole other video in itself, because we got to talk about time when it comes to this show. But the Panther Demon Tribe, as they were fighting them, and this is basically like what, the third link up in the war. This is like the third fight basically, because the first one was with their father. The second one was 50 years ago with Shomaru, and this would be the third one. So they're fighting, and we learned from Miyoga that there was a round 1. And Miyoga's like, well, Shishomaru wasn't here for that. Shishomaru just said that they fought 50 years ago. Miyoga, what are you talking about? Like, I was just so confused. Then we find out from Jockin, which that was something that I will say about that episode. That episode did really, really well with storytelling. It's season 3, episodes 22 and 23. Those episodes did really, really well with storytelling, the timelines, really good with emotions, everything. So then Inuyasha comes across Jockin, and Jockin is like, Lord Sessohmaru has fought them before. And Inuyasha's like, wait, Miyoga said that they haven't fought. So what are you talking about? He's like, well, they came back 50 years ago to seek vengeance on your dad, but your dad wasn't here. So they got the next closest thing. And Jockin then tells him and reveals that he went to seek InuYasha out. He was like, basically, I feel like Lord Sessohmaru might need his brother's help with this. Like, and we see a flashback where Jockin is like, I went to go look for your brother, and unfortunately, he fell in love with a human girl, and that human girl put him on a tree. Yeah. So then you kind of get like this sense of disappointment from Sessohmaru. And here are the couple of things that I feel like in that moment was probably going through his mind. One, WTF? Like, what the fuck? That was definitely going through his mind. Like what do you mean? The heart of a human woman? What? A mortal woman? What? Like, he's like, at this point, it's got to run in the family, but that gene definitely skipped me. I know for a fact that he was thinking that. But it was also, it could have been very triggering for him because, as we know, canon wise, because it's mentioned in the anime and it's also mentioned in the third movie, which, if you guys want me to cover the movies, let me know. As much as I really don't care for the show, the third movie is actually probably like one of my favorites. I really, really like the movie. I like the art, story, everything. So if you want me to cover that, I absolutely will. He is talking to him and he's pretty much like, your brother needed you. And I feel like in that moment, Sessohmaru definitely felt triggered because when InuYasha was born, his father went to him, ran to him and his mother, and he was injured and eventually he died from his injuries. And now it's like, I need you, so you're not here. So I feel like that ultimately like was a little triggering for him. This is my feelings. I just feel that way. It could have been that. I definitely think that was part of the reason why he kind of has like this little beef with his brother, because I think as an older brother with your siblings, even if you don't grow up together, you kind of expect more from them. And I feel like in that moment, he's just like, bro, what? You too? Like, I truly feel like that's what he was feeling in that moment. The other thing that I feel like is kind of a wall between InuYasha and Sessohmaru, and this is something that I found to be very, very interesting. I feel like there is a respect dynamic that is very conflicting between the two of them, and not with each other, but with their father, because there's been plenty of times where Miyoga or Totosai or Sessohmaru or anyone that has brought up his father, they just speak about him with the utmost respect because they've worked with him, they've fought alongside him, they've admired him. And InuYasha is just like, I don't know him. I don't owe him anything. I don't know him. I don't want to do anything for him. I don't want to be compared to him. And Sessohmaru just kind of takes that as like, I think a sense of him being ungrateful, because it's like, even if you weren't around him, if you weren't raised by him, Sessohmaru just kind of feels like he still owes his father some sense of respect. And because InuYasha doesn't really have respect for his brother or his father, it's because he doesn't know them. Like, of course he knows Sessohmaru, of course he knows him, but it's just a little bit different. Like, he does not know his father. He only knows what he's being told in real time. His mom, from the sound of it, like growing up, really didn't talk to him about his father much. Like, she just talked about how he was a warrior, and that was the extent of what he knew. But when we're finding out things about his father, that's when InuYasha is finding out things about his father. And I feel like that in itself can be conflicting, because Sessohmaru lived a nice little lifetime with him and he got to know him. And so he has a different type of admiration and respect for his father, whereas InuYasha doesn't have that. And I feel like because Sessohmaru was alongside his father for a bit, it's really hard for him to understand, like, you hear these things about him, but why don't you respect him? And it's really simple. It's like he just simply wasn't around him. He didn't have people growing up telling him these things. And they also live different lives. InuYasha has lived a life where he doesn't fit in with demons and he doesn't fit in with humans. And Sessohmaru is looked at as like this token, this warrior. So I feel like because the world views them both very, very differently, it's kind of hard for him to be like, oh, I want to be like my dad. But it's like no one's gonna ever take him seriously because of who his mother is. And so I feel like that in itself is very, very conflicting for the both of them. And I feel like because of that respectability that Sessohmaru has for his father, InuYasha doesn't have it. That is also something that really, really comes in between their relationship. So as I'm kind of going through and as I'm looking at things, because I myself, I am the oldest child. I have plenty of younger siblings, and there's going to be things, whether it's positive or negative, that I have viewed differently and seen through a different lens than my siblings have. So I'm not going to necessarily expect them to view things and understand things the way that I do. However, I don't think that Sessohmaru is giving InuYasha that grace. He doesn't give him like any room for grace, really, especially when you factor in the sword. Like at the end of the day, he's like, look, our father had made and given you the most precious thing that he could possibly give, the most powerful thing that he could possibly give. And in Sessohmaru's mind, that's enough and that's valid for him to have some type of level of respect for their father, but InuYasha doesn't see it that way. So all in all, I am saying this: Sessohmaru, probably 50 years ago, when the one time he wasn't expecting to need his brother, but had some glimmer of hope when Jaqen said, hey, I went and looked for your brother and I reached out to him. I feel like a part of him was like slightly disappointed because it could have been a moment where he, could have assisted his brother. And I also feel like in that moment too, he really, really harps on, you don't deserve the Tetsaiga, because had he had the Tetsaiga in his possession 50 years ago, they wouldn't have had another run-in with the Panther Demon tribe in real time. So it's like he also feels like he's undeserving of the Tetsaiga because he fell in love with a woman, like a mortal woman. Like he just feels as though, like, basically, if you're gonna let this happen, I need the sword, because I would never. That was Sessohmaru. That's his logic. That's just how he sees it. And you know what? His feelings are valid. They're valid, the same way that InuYasha's feelings are valid. But I feel like if Sessohmaru wants InuYasha to have that same level of respect that he has for his father, you're going to have to talk to him. Like, you or your mother or someone, people are going to have to talk to him. But it's like, at this point, he's lived a long life. And at this point, he's probably going to be like, oh, like, that was cool. But I think that he's just still not going to have like that level of respect that they're expecting him to have for him. So that's what I have to say about that. I feel like Sessohmaru just feels like he was let down by his brother. Things didn't go the way that he wanted to by his brother. And again, kind of triggering that a mortal woman was the reason that InuYasha ultimately, wasn't around for a while. And he probably feels that way too about his mother, because he was sloppy in battle. Ryukotse got him and he was wounded, and instead of him tending to his wounds, he went and ran to that woman. So again, valid. I feel like that's just how he feels. There's just a different take and a different perspective on everything. But that is it for this video. I will definitely be back because I have so many things. I want to talk about with this, of course. And we still have We still got like another 4 seasons. All right, so I'm gonna go watch InuYasha, get some more ideas so I can come back and yap with you. And you guys like, comment, share, subscribe. I love having you around. I love having discussions, and let's talk in the comments. And if you stuck around this long, drop a red heart in the comments. Drop a red or a white heart in the comments and let me know. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.